So, oh, my heart is so full. I love you. I miss you so much. I'm going to be regularly releasing updates and info about where we're headed. Today, I'm so grateful on this Mother's Day, though, to still be joining with you online, to still be sharing in this moment together with you. And so let me say that right now. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Right, my mom's been joining in online a lot of these weeks as well. My mom probably never thought that online church gathering would be a thing that she would do from a distance, but happy Mother's Day, Mom, if you're watching. Happy Mother's Day to every mom out there. If you are watching this right now and you're like, I didn't even know. You're welcome right now. I give you permission. I don't ever give you permission to do this, but I give you permission right now to take out your phone and text your mom, or maybe even call her right now over the course of these next couple of minutes and say, Mom, hey, happy Mother's Day. Hope you're doing well. So right now in this moment, I give you permission to do those kind of things. But I'm excited about today. I'm excited about this moment because I actually have a special guest for you. Now, if you were here weeks ago in these moments and you listened to the last conversation that I had with someone, you're gonna know that you're gonna wanna stay for what it is I'm about to participate in next, even though it's not the typical way that I might communicate via message, right? And for all the mamas, ladies, and really everybody out there, you're gonna wanna listen into this because this is a rare occasion that I could get this special guest to come, okay? I had to pay them a lot of money, a lot of something extra to be able to get them to come. I had to drive them here myself. I had to make sure that everything was exactly the way they needed for it to be backstage and all of that. And so I'd make sure the tea was the right flavor and all of that. I'm talking that's that level of a guest that we've got in the room right now, okay? And so her name is Krista Estep. And so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, would you welcome my wife, Krista Estep, to the room, to the stage. I need like applause music in the room, like background audio applause. We can add that in later, right? In the editing stage, we'll just add some applause in. So she makes sure that I usually have to clap, but my hands were full. So I'm very sorry about that. And so I'm sorry. One of the ways I like to communicate with my wife is I give her a hard time. I'm very sorry about that, but that's one of the ways that I like to communicate great love. And so she's really not that needy as I just described, okay? I did drive her here, but otherwise, she's great. So,
thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm excited about this in this moment. Here's one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation. I want to have this conversation because Krista and I were talking the other day, and in the middle of the conversation, I was just asking her, I was thinking about Mother's Day, and I was thinking about stepping into this moment with you. I was like, you know, a lot of things changed for sure when you became a mom, we became parents. But I started to notice for sure a whole different world, which was the struggles of mom, right? The struggles of motherhood, the struggles, not just like your struggles, but I started to become very aware my home mom struggles, and all moms really in that way. But some of the stuff that you were sharing with me in that conversation, I feel like was not just like a mom thing. It's a people thing. It's just a thing that all of us really, really need to be able to listen into. So can you just kind of start there? That'll be my first question with you of what do you see in all the ladies that you talk to all the time, especially moms, of what's the struggles? What's the struggle?
Well, when you first asked me this, to be honest, there were like 100 things that went through my mind because we do struggle with so much. But like one of the constant and consistent themes is like judgment. So just us being like hard on ourselves, but also us judging other moms, and even people that are not even parents just feel the need to judge moms, their parenting styles, if their kids are acting crazy. It's just this universal theme, it seems like, that we just experience so much judgment. And in relation to like comparison, like there's a big comparison game. And so we feel the need that if another mom is doing something different, that we need to judge her or call her out on that. And so that is just something that I've noticed as a mom myself. And then being on social media, because social media has unfortunately created, not just for moms, but we hide behind our keyboard and we just feel entitled to speak negatively into every single person.
Preach.
And so that is just one thing that I've noticed that we struggle with the most is just this judgment element.
Why you think that is? Not, and so on a broad level, just as people, and then particularly with moms, like why are we so tempted to do that?
Well, I think for one, we are insecure. And I can speak because that has been like my story, but we feel this insecurity, and we want to project our insecurity onto other people and to other moms. And so and there again, as I'm talking to other moms and some of my close friends, it's so much to do with ourselves, not so much other people, but so we have this comparison game. And that just creates this even bigger and deeper insecurity in our lives. And if you're a part of any mom groups out there, you will see people's insecurity just rises to the surface. And yeah, I think so much of it just has to do with us. I think I had read one time an unhealed person will find offense in literally anything that anybody has to say. And I think that so much, our hearts are not pure. Our hearts are not right. We have some bitterness and some an unhealed heart. And I think that causes a lot of our judgment on ourselves, on other people. So I think a lot of it just has to do with us, and not necessarily others.
Yeah. Does that play into I regularly sense this hesitation around celebrating goodness in other people's lives, right? Celebrating someone else doing something good, or someone else doing something good in their kids' lives or their families' lives, but because of some other things about that person, then I feel no, I can't really celebrate that. I can't really say, oh, hey, I'm glad that good things are happening in your life. Do you think that's a factor?
For sure, yeah. I think that, I don't know, and there again, it's just it's mostly created by social media. Almost every mom is on social media. And so, and I think a big thing is when we are celebrating our wins, or we are sharing something that has done well for us, not in a boastful way, but just hey, my child slept all night, for the first time, or something like that. But it's by celebrating that, we feel the need to put all these stipulations or disclaimers. To not be offensive, because it just seems we've experienced that ourselves, and so we're aware, and it's but that doesn't mean that, you're a failure. It's just
if your kid is not sleeping on.
It just feels like we have this, we can't celebrate other people's wins because we just struggle with that, ourselves. And I wish that it was not that way. I would love to get up to a place where, just by sharing our story and what works for us, that you don't have to do the disclaimers. It's everybody could kind of cheer each other on, and I'm so glad that that's working for you. Just to kind of speak life into each other, and to, I think it's in, I don't know, you're the biblical scholar, but in Romans, where it's talking about, rejoice with those who rejoice, of course, mourn with those who mourn, but rejoicing with each other, because no matter what your parenting style is, no matter what you believe, I feel the ultimate goal is we want to raise good humans in terms of speaking to parents. And so I think that if we recognize that the end goal is to raise good humans, which is my end goal, I think that if we can all just recognize that, and that we need to be unified, and that we can celebrate each other's wins, and that's not taking away from someone else's. I just think that there's room for more than one narrative, And, just by someone sharing theirs doesn't mean that they are taking away from yours. And I think that that's such a...
Yeah. No.
I know that's a lot.
Absolutely. What comes to my mind biblically, I think about, when Saul was king in the Old Testament, Israel's first king, but David is anointed to be king. And immediately there's this sense of jealousy, insecurity that emerges out of Saul. And even though David is on his team, on his side, and in fact, helping Saul really get better even at accomplishing what it was that he was supposed to be about doing. When they come back into town, everybody's celebrating David. Oh, Saul's killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. And instead of being able to look at David and be like, man, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, thank you. I'm glad you got those tens of thousands because I was over here with these thousands trying to survive. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes, as a guy, I equate, parenting to warfare. And so, so in the back of my mind, I go to an Old Testament battle scene, right, where the only way we're going to make it out of this is if, you get them and I get these, and we fight together in this thing. And then trying to look toward that which is helpful in this way, that we could celebrate, somebody else who's actually on the same side as us. But it is so easy for me to get in a zone of comparison and a zone of jealousy and envy in all of those ways. And I wonder if underneath all of these things, at times I think to myself, why is it this way, right? Like, why? And I kind of get why, right? Like, I get why the world's not a nice place all the time, And so I could be very idealistic. I just be like, why not better, right? Why could we not get there? I know there's a lot of highly charged topics and issues, and we're in a highly charged topic and issue kind of time right now for sure. And but in the middle of all that, I continue going back to, if I am not at peace and if I am not content in my relationship with Jesus, about understanding this is who I am, right? If I know this is who I am, and what you mentioned earlier about my aim or goal in parenting to raise good humans, that's a great description, I think, of that. And here's like part of what comes to my mind as an issue is that we don't really even know what being human is. Right? Like, we don't really even recognize to be human is to be created in the image of God, to be carefully crafted by God in a particular way, even that He has not developed any two people exactly the same, although all of us being created with the same value, right? Because He gave us that. And so helps me for sure in the middle of all that, if I'm like, okay, if I am at peace and contentment. And I shared on social media this week a post of a comment from Dallas Willard about we need to arrange our days so we can experience the peace, joy, and contentment of God. And I just realized that's something that we don't do. That's something that we do very little of. Like, in all of those instances, you're sitting behind a keyboard and you're typing negativity, or you're taking in negativity from other people. I'm not arranging my day in a way where I can experience more of the peace, joy, and contentment of God. I'm arranging my day where I'm giving priority to another voice or another editor in my life in some way, if that makes sense in any way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, there again, you just kind of have to focus on yourself, in this sense, in terms of, like, the moment you start to feel offended, you got to really take a step back. And this has worked for me. Like, why am I offended? Like, what is going on? There has to be something in my own life that is making me feel that way. And I think if we would just take a step back, because we're so quick to be like a keyboard warrior, as they call them, just to be like so quick, like, But I think if you just take a step back and really think, and there again, like your insecurity, or, just this, I don't know, and we just feel this, like jealousy, and talking with my mom friends who all became moms at the same time that I did. And it's just, we are so quick to be like jealous of other moms. like, oh, they have like a picture perfect life, and they're doing this with their kids, and I can't even get mine to even listen, and it's just different. We just have to recognize that we're all unique. We're all individual people, created by God, who loves us and who created us all for a purpose. But he created us all differently. He didn't create us all the same. Like, we think differently. We talk differently. We interpret things differently. And so if we could just recognize that, and then be able to, I think that then we would be able to see them as a human, as another fellow mom, fellow, parent, or just,
Yeah. All right, yeah. So there's something coming to my mind. Camera crew guys. I'm gonna make a little bit move here. You will follow me here with this. This is a little behind the scenes cut here in action over here to the booth. These are some brilliant people over here behind the booth. These dudes make it all happen. A couple of there's Brad. Brad's the man. He's behind the booth. I awkwardly grabbed this pointer without explaining what I was going to do with it, and I pointed it at Brad in the booth. That's a bad idea. Okay, so I won't do that again. Clearly, I didn't plan this, at least not well, right? I had this thought in my mind, though, when I was leaving earlier, because we were talking about judgment. I grabbed one of the kids' toys. I hate these things. I absolutely, I have no idea why we have these. Like, someone, if my mother-in-law, if you're watching and you gave these to my kids, I love them. I think they're the best gift ever. Thank you, and I love you. And so, I grabbed these walking out the door, because every time I hear somebody like, I can't see, right? Like, I can't see. We're all around these people all the time, and we can be those people who, like, I can't see. I have no awareness that I'm actually doing what I'm doing, right? Like, I have no awareness that I'm actually being that judgmental. I just do it, and I just say it, and because I think it, so I must have to say it, right? And so what I have in my mind every time I see the kids play with these little pointy finger things, I always have like a biblical thing that comes to my mind when Jesus is like, hey, here's what you hypocrites are worried about. Sermon on the Mount, Matthew's gospel. He's like, you guys are worried all about the speck in somebody else's eye, but you've got a log in your own. And so every single time, and he's just like, hey, take the log out of your own eye before you worry about anybody else's speck. And so every time I see one of these, I have this visual in my mind, right, of a bunch of people just walking around with these like jammed in their eye, right, and they just walking up to people and they just like, just like poke it, like, hey, look at that, look at that little speck, right, look at that blemish, look at that. Look at that in your life, right? Like, just look, and then I could go around and I can find somebody else, right? I could go and I could find other people that I'm just like, I wander around with this stuck in my eye and I can't see nothing. I can't see nobody really well, but the only thing I can do is I start to feel when I make contact. Like if I walk up to something and I feel when I make the contact, and so what that makes me feel like is that, oh, I'm finally fulfilling what I need to do. And so it feels really good to not pay any attention to the thing that's in my eye and only be focused on when I'm making contact. I like to call this the judgment jab, right? This is what comes to my mind, that when you talk about us struggling with judging people, it's a constant, it's a judgment jab. Right, like over and over and over again. And Jesus is like, here's what I need for everybody to know. You got something in your eye. No matter who you are, you've got something in your eye. And here's the work I want to do in you. I want to take that out. It's like, you take that out of your eye, and then you can be worried about, you can actually help somebody else. Right? But so like, oftentimes I'm like, man, especially in the world of moms, you all have so much to be able to offer or to help, like, each other. And then, like, when we sing of generations, there's so much out there that every generation of motherhood, right, and every generation of Jesus follower, like, we believe in being a multi-generational, multicultural, multinational, multi-site church of multipliers, right? Like that's what we want to be. But the only way that that multi-generational thing can work well is if we actually like are open to that from an earlier generation, from a younger generation, and everywhere in between, right? If that makes sense in any kind of way.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I don't know, when I was thinking about this in terms of we have such a ministry as moms, not just for our children, but to minister to other moms, or even like we just recognize that we all struggle. And I think that for me in particular and some of my friends, it can feel very isolating if you are a mom, and specifically a stay-at-home mom. It can feel even more isolating at times. And we have such a huge opportunity to minister to each other, and recognizing that, hey, we're different. Like, we parent our kids differently. We let them do things differently. And but if we could just recognize our ministry, that we have the opportunity to speak life into each other, regardless of how we believe or how we don't have to agree on everything, but we have this opportunity to speak life into each other. And I think that is so needed, just because it can, like I said, it can feel isolating, and we can slip into some like anxiety and even depression. And if we're constantly feeling this judgment and negativity that so many people want to speak into us, it can become even more isolating, and we can slip into that. It is so easy to do that. And I just think that if we could just put aside our differences and have that unconditional love for each other, just like God has called us to, and how much He loves us, then we can make such a huge difference and a huge impact. And our kids are watching. I mean, I see so many moms out there bullying each other, and their children are watching. And I'm just like, how are we supposed to teach them not to bully their friends? Because we're on social media bullying, or even sometimes in grocery stores bullying. And so it's I just think that we're missing the opportunity that we have if we can just recognize that we're all different, even not just moms specifically, but just as human beings, we're all different. And that doesn't mean that we can't get along, and that doesn't mean that we can't love each other and pour our lives into each other. And so I don't know. If that makes sense.
I love. It's a struggle. So, like in Dad's world, it's a Mother's Day primarily thing. Here's an interesting fun fact: Mother's Day is like one of the most well-attended church Sundays of the year. Not this year, unfortunately. Probably still online, though it still is. And then Father's Day is one of the worst. And oftentimes I look at all those things, and I do think that there's a lot into that equation. There's a lot that I don't have time to really unpack and share all of that. But it is hard sometimes for dads to feel what you just said, which is my kids are a part of my ministry. They're not all of it, but they're a huge part of it, right? That God entrusts us with them, and that feels to me, who does quote unquote professional ministry, at times like it's hard. Like at times, like during this time in particular, like we're working even this morning, just on, okay, kind of what are we going to say when we get up here today? What's some big themes, what's some big things that we actually want to communicate, so we're intentional with everyone's time. But with kids, like, they seem to have the ability to know when you're trying to accomplish something, right?
Ours do.
Ours do. Anyway,
I don't know about anybody else.
Maybe your kids are great, in that way. Mine are great at realizing, Dad's trying to do something important right now. I can just tell it. He's got that look on his face like he's trying to focus. Let's jump him, right? Like, let's sneak attack. You take that side, I'll take this side. Let's take him down, And so, like, even this morning, they're doing, those kind of things. It's just, it's normal. But it is really hard for me at times to actually consider, like, look at my kids and think, okay, I mean, they're little humans, little people that I'm entrusted with for whatever reason, and they're a ministry in and of themselves for me to serve them and for me to show them the way. And man, they watch. Like, to your point, like when you're talking about, like, ours don't know about what we're, saying on social media yet, because they don't have accounts. Although they know more than we realize.
This is true.
But nonetheless, man, they watch us, right? Like, and they challenge us in so many ways like that to be aware of who we're becoming and how we're representing Jesus, right, in every space. So, is there something today, just kind of as we end, that you would say, hey, this is just something I want to encourage not just moms with, but everybody with in this?
Yeah, I had a few things wrote down.
Oh, great.
But no, I really just in terms of like the life-giving words and in terms of speaking life over other people, we can't really do that, like I said, if we have insecurities. And I think the number one way like we can combat that is to be grateful. Like, be grateful for what we have. If we will recognize what we have, we are able to, be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. And also, just to support each other and to be there for them, to not to throw advice unless they ask, but just to be there for them, to be there for your friends, to be there for anybody who may be struggling, and right now that's almost everyone. And if we could just, put aside our differences and just reach out to our neighbors, and just ensure that everybody is okay, and just to recognize other people's needs. And I think that goes a long way right now, just for those sort of things.
Yeah, they do, right? They do. And out there for all of you joining in with us still, that's been a part of our heart, right, for people and for this community of New Collective Church. For us regularly, as people come to our mind, as you come to our mind, and many of you who would call yourself, like a volunteer who's connected here and a part of the core, you've been reaching out, thinking about, even if it's just one person a day, right, that you've been reaching out, calling, texting, messaging, something, taking something to people. And, in a time like this, for sure, where judgment is very high and opinions are very high and differences are glaring and obvious and apparent over a number of topics and issues, we're not just people who step into moments and say, hey, let's just all get along, as if that's all that there is to this. We're not just people who are sitting here to say, hey, let's just try to not cause issues for each other. Although that would be a step ahead probably of where we are, right? But recently, and this is where I want to end this moment today. Recently, someone was asking me for a video clip about what's the one line of good advice that you want to share with people. And so it was being placed in a montage of other videos with like some university presidents and business people, just people in some different spaces and spheres of influence. And on the one hand, I thought, okay, right now in a moment like that, when someone asks a question, I want to say something that is so profound and so impressive, right? In comparison to all of those types of people who are so well-spoken and intellectual and gifted in all these different areas. And then I had this thought come over me, which was this, which is good news is always better than good advice. And why is that so important for us? Because you and I can go around and we can give the world good advice, right? Like I could step into everybody's life and say, hey, here's some good advice about parenting. I'm limited in that area, but I could try. Here's some good advice about finances. I'm limited in that area, but I could try. Here's some good advice about a business plan or a strategy. here's some good advice about how to make it through middle school. And here's some good advice about all of these different phases and stages of life. And all of you out there probably have some areas that you can give some good advice in. But then I started to realize this. The message of Jesus is so good, not because he shows up and says, hey, I've got some good advice. He shows up and he says, no, I have good news. I have good news. That's what the gospel of Jesus is. I have good news. I've come to make an announcement of good news in your life. And when we're talking about that scene or that passage where Jesus is like, hey, take the log out of your eye first before you worry about somebody else's speck. Well, here's the thing. That seems like advice. That didn't seem like good news. No, you know what else Jesus says in all of those things? He's like, hey, come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Over and over again, it's come to me. You can't take that out of your eye. You can't follow any of that good advice by yourself. You're a disaster, right? Like, I'm a disaster. Right? You give me all the good advice in the world and I'm still struggling to be able to make it and follow through with all of it. And all of us do in that way. Instead, Jesus comes and says, hey, here's good news. The kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God is near. Which is this: I'm here. I'm here. And it's good news that I'm here, because I've come to do in you and for you what you could not do for yourself. So if you're overwhelmed about being a mom, you're overwhelmed about being a dad, you're overwhelmed about being a business person, you're overwhelmed about trying to follow a Jesus that seems so far out in front and so far away from you. Jesus is like, there's good news. I'm actually right here where you are. Right here where you are in the middle of you struggling and being overwhelmed about all of those things. I've come close to you. Good news, I'm here. And good news, I've come to bring grace. I've come to bring mercy. I've come to bring unfailing love to you. Unfailing love. I'm not ever going to fail you. I'm not ever going to leave you. So when Jesus gives his life on the cross for me and you, was the ultimate, it's done, it's finished. I love you, you're forgiven. I love you, I fill your gaps. I love you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you some teaching, but what you really need to know is that I'm here to save your soul. I'm here to forgive your sin. I'm here to heal your life from all that it is that's overwhelming you. Come, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Because rest is here. Rest is here in Jesus. So right now, wherever you are, I just want to take a moment to pray with you, okay? Right now in this moment, I want to pray with you. Just lean in to Jesus and how he's speaking to you even right now where you are, right now in this moment. God, I thank you. God, I thank you that you didn't show up in my life just telling me everything that's wrong and everything that I need to do to be right. But you showed up being right and inviting me to step into new life with you. And God, right now I pray with people listening in this moment, for people who feel like they're far from you, people who haven't considered you because they're stuck trying to figure out what advice to take. But right now, Jesus, you're meeting them where they are. Living rooms, back porches, and everywhere in between. And right now, Jesus is just one call of your heart away. Right now, if you want to call out to Jesus, step into new life with him, just call out to him in a way like this. Jesus, I know I need you. Jesus, I thank you for who you are. Jesus, I thank you that you gave your life for me, that you're alive. And Jesus, right now in this moment, I come to you. I give you my life, and I ask you to save me, forgive me, rescue me. Make me new, Jesus. Give me rest. I step into new life and eternal life right now with you, Jesus. And right now, if you're listening, church online, if that's you in this moment, you click raise hand. We want to connect with you. If you're out there someplace else, message us. We want to connect with you. Wherever it is that you are, you're struggling and you're hurting, man, please do not hesitate right now to reach out to somebody to be able to pray for you and with you. Because we love you. God loves you so much, so much. Jesus, we thank you for the good news of who you are. We lean into you. We lean into that today. In Jesus' name we pray.